So for the next stage, we're going to be adding some detail. We need to try and create a more of a furry effect to our shepherd pup, because he is obviously quite furry, and also deal with the eyes and the nose. First thing we're going to do is use the black soft pastel, using the edge again, to try and recapture some of the detail that we've lost, or that we haven't put in to start with the tonal sketch and the blocking out, especially these nice fluffy areas around the ears. So use the black almost to outline them, but in a very soft way. I know it's detail stage, but you can put too much detail in if we're not careful. So the whole thing should be nice and soft. So using the edge of the pastel, just capture some of the detail, some of the dark areas. For example, do one ear and then rub it in. Now, of course, you always have to rub it in. That pushes the pastel into the paper to help it to stay there and softens it off, but at the same time, you preserve the detail that you put down. So let's move to the other ear. The same procedure, using the edge of the black pastel just to create a suggestion of detail. Remember, above all, this is just a sketch. It's not a highly detailed painting, so you can get away with a lot less detail than you would probably do on a complete painting. Rub it in. You see the detail marks that you made stay there. It just softens them off is all. Now into the head, a little bit of a furry edge to the head, and coming down into the cheeks. One thing that you may want to note is that the reference you're using, if you printed it out on a fairly cheap or standard printer, then you might have rather too much contrast compared to your original photograph or indeed the subject. So just be aware that you may not necessarily want it to be as dark as your reference. And the reference in this case, the dark areas are quite dark. So I don't want to make them as dark as they are. Nice dark area under the eyebrow. Of course, this is an area of the face that drops back. So that's why it's in shadow. Same with the cheekbones, the dark area under the cheekbones and around the mouth. Not forgetting, every now and again, just to rub the pastel into the paper to make it stick and to keep it soft. Use light strokes, natural strokes if you can. Don't try to force them, don't concentrate too much. The more you concentrate on these strokes, the more likely they are to look unnatural, stilted. So just use little flicks of the wrist to help you get that texture. Most of the texture and the detail will be done with the black, with a little bit of colour added just to give it a bit more strength. You see I have a nice soft fluffy edge to his cheek and his neck. So natural little strokes of the wrist. And around the side of the face we have a little bit of dark detail to set that fluffy part of the ear off from his face, from his eye. Again, the deep shadow in the eyebrow. And then around the nose, we'll work on the eyes in a moment. Now don't go over the nose with too heavy a black. We have that blue tone already underneath, and we want to preserve quite a lot of that blue tone to make the nose look cold. So a light application of the black over the nose, and a rub with the finger will keep it soft and let some of the blue show through. That's what gives the cold nose its appearance. And finally, we'll just move in and do the eyes, the dark bit above the eye and around the edge of the eye and the pupil. And the same on this side, quite dark rims around the eyes. Into the corner of the eye and around the iris. We start off with a fairly simple rough shape, because we may want to just touch that up in a while after we've done the colour part of the eye. For the coloured part of the eye, we're going to use the dark orange again. And you can see the coloured part is just visible underneath the pupil. And then we'll use the light orange. The light orange will give us a little highlight in the coloured part, just around the bottom. And the same colour, we'll use the light orange for the lighter fur. So around the edge of the ears in particular. Again, using the side of the pastel, the sharp edge. Not too detailed, remember, it's soft fluffy fur. And soft fur, if it's too detailed, loses its softness. So try to keep it fairly thick. The thicker your strokes, the softer the fur will look. Not forgetting the eyebrows Again, just little touches of the dark orange in the eyebrows. And the same on this one. Nice thick strokes to get that real fluffy texture. Again, stroke it, push it in with your fingers, and that'll help to liven up that soft fur texture. To really give it a softness. Down into the neck, almost using the side of the pastel for this part. Because again, we don't want too much detail everywhere. Most of the detail should be concentrated around the face, of course. That's where you want people to look. So if you have less detail elsewhere, then that'll help to focus your viewer onto the face. And again, a final stroke, and we're pretty much ready for our highlights then. Right, so on to the final stage. The final stage is the highlights. Before I actually put any highlights in, I'm just going to check the black in the eyes again. Remember I said that we might want to sharpen those up a little bit, so it's a good time to do it before we put the highlights in the eyes, for example. So first of all, just touch up the pupil and maybe a little bit of black underneath the eyelids, and also a wee bit more black into the nose, just into the shadow areas. And now we can move on to the white soft pastel to create our final highlights. Now we don't want to swamp it with white highlights because white has a tendency to kill a painting if you're not careful. So we can quite simply put a little bit of white over the colour we've got in a very soft way. Remember, it's soft fur, we want to keep it soft. So a little bit of highlight over that pale orange, a little bit of highlights in the ears, for the hairs inside the ears. And the same on this one. Not too detailed, remember, and keep it soft. Never forget that white, too much white can kill a painting. So a little bit of soft white on the edge of the hair on that side. A little bit of highlight around the edge of the ear, again, keeping it very, very soft. Stroking it with your finger. It's as well at this point to have a clean finger to work with. If you've got a black finger, from using the black pastel, you will contaminate the white a little bit. Not so much in this case because we're keeping it quite soft. And again, almost using the edge of the white pastel just to lighten up that pale orange that we put down a short while ago. And then rub it in so that the white isn't too strong. Work our way around the edge of the fur. This time almost using the length of the pastel. And a little bit down here, a little bit onto his neck, this time using the flat of the pastel because we don't want too much detail in this area. The same underneath the chin, and a little bit of fur highlights around here. And then we can do the final highlights in the important features, the eyes, the nose and the mouth. Let's start with the nose this time, and we'll just pop a little soft highlight over the violet that we have. We want to keep the overall violet appearance of the highlight, but just pep it up a little bit where the light's catching it strongest. And again, if it helps, squint at your painting, at your sketch, and you can usually tell by squinting whether your highlights are too strong or not enough. If when you squint at them you can't really see those highlights, you usually want to add a little bit more. But they seem to be okay to me at this time. Maybe just a touch more on the fleshy part of the nose where it's cold and shiny. Yep, that'll work for me. And into the eyes now, so a little bit of highlight on the eye itself. This should be a curved highlight because the eyeball is curved outwards, and we need to capture that curve. This is again using the sharp edge of the pastel, and a little bit of a highlight on the lower rims. Just a soft highlight there, and finally into the tear duct. An overall check just to make sure we've covered all the highlights, and squinting at it I can just see that that highlight or reflection in the eye should be a wee bit stronger. So now's the time to do it. Final squint, final check, and I'm happy with that, and there's our puppy finished. Okay, so there's our completed German Shepherd puppy painting. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and I'll see you next time.
Now available to buy. Try these techniques at home whenever you wish. The extended DVD of today's workshop is now available from the Painting and Drawing channel. For further information and to order your copy, go to www.paintingdrawingchannel.com.